Ahadith which are going to go on. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi man sara sabilihi ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd. So in continuing discussing the book Al-Arba'in An-Nawawiyah that covers 40 hadith, and as we mentioned that this particular collection is of those that are highly encouraged that the Muslim should memorize, and also second, to be taught and to be understood. So we've been starting discussing this series regarding these ahadith that is mentioned here by Imam An-Namwai rahimahullah. And last week we discussed the fourth. We ended discussing hadith al-Rabi', and today inshaAllah ta'ala we'll be start discussing hadith al-Khamis, which will be the fifth hadith in this particular series. And also we follow the same method that we had started with regarding covering these particular hadith. So we'll read the hadith in Arabic, and then we'll read the hadith and have the hadith translated. Then we'll start to discuss this particular hadith. So it is mentioned here concerning hadith al-Khamis, and al-Mu'mineen Abdullah Aisha radhiyallahu anha قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد رواه بخاري ومسلم وفي الرواية للمسلم من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. أيوة. So we'll have one of our brothers to read the translation, then we'll discuss the hadith.
Remove the innovation on the authority of the mother of the mu'mineen, the faithful people, Abdullah Aisha radiallahu anha, who said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, he who innovates something in this matter of ours that is not of it will have it rejected. It was related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. In one version by Muslim it reads, he who does an act which is not in agreement with our matter will have it rejected.
So this is the hadith that is mentioned regarding as the fifth hadith regarding as mentioned concerning that these hadiths are supposed to be of those hadith which is min jawami al-kalim, that few wordings but the meaning is very far-fetched. So regarding concerning this particular hadith that is mentioned here, as first we'll discuss concerning that as mentioned as we the method that we are following, that first we have takhrij of the hadith. So the first step is making takhrij of the hadith. Takhrij of the hadith meaning concerning that as referencing the hadith to its original sources. So it's referencing, so takhrij, ilm al-takhrij is of the science of ilm al-hadith. Where concerned the hadith, that we're able to trace the hadith back to its original sources. Original sources, I said, masadir asliya, mean concerning the hadith being traced back to those books of hadith that comes with isnad. They are considered to be al-masadir asliya. So this particular hadith, so and then also of the ulama who mentioned at-takhrij also would involve having a discussion regarding some of the ruwat, some of the narrators, and also in concluding with takhrij is also giving a hukm upon the hadith. So the general rule that is followed, that if hadith is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim, that in most part, then it shows consider hadith is already, that's been authenticated. So in most part, when a hadith is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim, then that means the hadith it is a hadith which is authentic. Now, only in rare cases, exceptional cases, where the hadith may be discussed. So yes, there's exception to the rules, but ordinarily, when the hadith is said to be in Bukhari and Muslim, then the hadith is accepted as sahih. And most mentioned concerning hadith, rawahu Bukhari and Muslim, that should the hadith is muttafaqun alayh. Meaning hadith is agreed upon between Bukhari and Muslim by narrating the same hadith on the same sahabi, and or sahabiya, in this case with his Mu'mineen Aisha. Then he mentioned that, so that's concerned as for takhrij of hadith, that the author here, An-Namwai rahimahullah, he mentioned, rawahu Bukhari and Muslim. If he had said muttafaqun alayh, then that would be correct, as the hadith is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim from the same companion who's Mu'mineen Aisha radhiyallahu anha. Then he mentioned for riwayah, yani a second wording of the hadith, man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad, and that narration is mentioned by Imam Muslim. So as for takhrij of the hadith, that as we mentioned that Busiri, who has some comment on this book of An-Nawawi, that he mentioned that Busiri mentioned concerning this particular hadith being the fifth hadith he mentioned, wa Abu Dawood wa Ibn Majah. So he mentioned regarding concerning from Kutubu Sitta that this hadith is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim. Also third is mentioned by Abu Dawood in his Sunan, and also Ibn Majah. So this hadith, other than Bukhari and Muslim, from Kutubu Sitta, that also this hadith can be found in Bukhari and in Abu Dawood and also Ibn Majah. one of the explanation of this book, the one by Ali Mullah al-Qari, one of the ulama of Hind, that he mentioned, when he mentions hadith, mentioned Rawahu Bukhari Muslim. Then he mentioned وكذلك, and also to mention Abu Dawood والنسائي. So Ali al-Qari, when he made additional collectors of hadith, he added Abu Dawood, and also he mentioned An-Nasa'i. As we mentioned before, that Busiri, he mentioned Abu Dawood and Ibn Majah. Now Ali al-Qari is mentioning Abu Dawood, which is coinciding with Busiri. Then he mentioned Nasa'i. And the other mentioned Ibn Majah. They mentioned regarding concerning this hadith that is actually found in Bukhari. They mentioned a number, Muslim, Abu Dawood. Then they mentioned وَلَمْ يَخَرِجُهُ النَّسَائِ قَطْعًا, that the one who made tahqiq of this book, of those and others that they mentioned this hadith, it is not found in Nasa'i, even though Ali al-Qari mentioned An-Nasa'i. So the hadith is not found in Nasa'i. How can we verify this to know who's right and who's wrong? So sometimes I find something, an alim said something, but then someone else later on saying something contrary. So how do we now verify who's correct and who's not? Because both can, because that's an alim speaking. So how can we now verify? And that's concerned. So it shows that regarding at times that even the ones who come after the alim, the one who's less than the alim, that he can still verify information said by an alim. So they mentioned regarding the person that they mentioned regarding concern as now how to verify. Like in al-Hadith, they have a system of how to verify and to check things. And in every science you have this. So in al-Hadith, it have a system regarding how to verify information. So regarding al-mutun, and so a hadith is of two parts. In the hadith we have the isnad, that's the core of the hadith, and the second half of the hadith, the second bit of the hadith is regarding the matan. So we have isnad is the narrators, and the second part of the hadith relates to the wording, the text of the hadith. So you find certain books that are there to kind of somewhat to verify the information from both. So you have certain books that are dedicated to collecting all the different wording of a hadith. So he mentions, so to prove regarding whether who's right and who's correct, that they have mentioned regarding that to prove that hadith is not in Nasa'i. That I mentioned that Al-Mizzi, Hafid Al-Mizzi, rahimahullah, one of the great scholars of hadith, that he has a book that is called Tuhfat Al-Ashraf, where he collect concerning, so he mentioned it's a hadith concerning the hadith, concerning that he mentioned some of the wording, but then he will mention the isnad. So Tuhfat Al-Ashraf is more about verifying isnad in Kutubu Sitta. So he said in Tuhfa Al-Ashraf that this hadith is not mentioned with An-Nasa'i. So he's proved that Al-Mizzi, of those whose work is well known and established and a main source of reference regarding checking certain things, that this hadith is not mentioned by Mizzi in his book Tuhfat al-Ashraf as being mentioned in An-Nasa'i. Then second, they mention so other proof. So other ways of verifying also Ibn Athir. I will mention also he has a book called Al-Jami' al-Usul. So Jami' al-Usul, that Ibn Athir rahimullah, he got a hadith from Kutubu Sitta. With the exception of that he mentioned Kutubu Sitta, but he mentioned regarding concerning that, he mentioned his hadith and it is not mentioned Nasa'i as being one of the collectors of this hadith. So again, it shows that, again, the hadith is not with An-Nasa'i. And also they mention also Al-Suyuti in his book Al-Jami' al-Kabir. So Al-Suyuti, of the ulama of the 9th century, that he had a book called Al-Jami' al-Kabir, that he mentioned many books of hadith. And he will also reference those hadiths regarding those who have narrated this hadith. And now when he mentioned this hadith, he does not mention this particular hadith of those who are the collector and Nasa'i. So it kind of somewhat shows that those who concerning that what Ali al-Qari have mentioned regarding An-Nasa'i, that verifying hadith, that's not the case. And also if we go back to An-Nasa'i, is not in Nasa'i. But a person might say that the version that you have today, maybe the hadith is missing. So those other sources kind of somewhat to reinforce that the hadith actually is not in Nasa'i from all that we know. Clear? From all that has been confirmed that the hadith is not with An-Nasa'i. So that's concerned about said the science of takhrij and those science that it goes into those detail. Because the ulama of hadith regarding when you reference hadith, they like to go back and to ensure the hadith actually that within a part of the sources that you have mentioned. So regarding concerning Abu Dawood, the hadith in Abu Dawood, but as for Nasa'i, no, also they mention the hadith. So regarding concerning that matter. So sometimes an alim may mention the hadith is in this book, but the hadith actually is not there. How to do so is going back to that book to see is the hadith actually mentioned. And also it shows, as we mentioned before, that sometime an alim that is mu'tabar, that a person of a form of a source of reference regarding his ilm, that he can make mistake regarding certain things that he may mention. But how do we know that he's made a mistake? By cross-referencing what he has said with other sources. That's why we mentioned before that a person, for example, get a book. For example, that An-Namwai, as an example, it's been, what an explanation is there in English, or any English book. If the person, for example, any English book that's from an alim who's reputable and credible, we're just reading his book, but we're unable to reference his sources. Sometimes we might fall into his error. He may make an error, I would say an error that he has made, but we are unable to detect that error. And we are passing on that error. So it shows concern that talib al-ilm regarding the one who teaches that the person must have certain criteria. Must have said, bear in mind this is Islam. If we have concerning where a person who's teaching to the general public, and especially in our time that we have people that know we have YouTube, we have all these social media, that we want the teacher objective is to give correct information about Islam to the best of your ability. And you're more correct, you should have the ability to can source the sources to ensure that what you're saying is correct, or to verify them at least. If you don't have that skill and that ability and that tool, then you shouldn't be teaching. If you don't have the tools to verify the information you're passing, then you shouldn't be teaching, because it means that you're not equipped. It means that you're not equipped. So for example, and we are saying this because sometimes as we're going to discuss concerning bid'ah, the hadith relating to bid'ah, I will discuss concerning asbab wuqu' an-nas fil bid'ah. Why people fall into bid'ah. One of the reasons people fall into bid'ah. We'll discuss this also again. And this will come back. So we said that regarding concerning passing information about Islam, for the person who's the teacher, is about giving accurate information. And when I say the person, everything the person say would be accurate, but at least the person have tried to give accurate information. And also the person have the tools to source accurate information. So I might want to give information, but do I have the tools? Am I equipped to give that information? If the person is not equipped, then the person shouldn't be teaching. That means that you're not equipped, you should not be teaching. That's all it means. If you want to teach, then equip yourself. Go and learn, then you can teach. But if you're not yet qualified, then don't teach. It's not upon you. It's not wajib upon you to teach. And for you to teach becomes the problem. Something you're trying to fill the gap, but in filling that gap, you become the problem. So that's the thing regarding concerning Islam. And we'll discuss concerning an important topic regarding bid'ah. So we said that this hadith is being able to verify and know the books of the ulama and how to source things and how to understand concerning the wording of the ulama. So regarding concerning the topic, regarding this matter, regarding the hadith is not in the Nasa'i. Based upon those way of verifying the information. Also, second, regarding concerning this particular hadith that I mentioned regarding the hadith that I mentioned concerning you have Abu Dawood, I've narrated the hadith with various wordings. So the hadith have come concerning, I mentioned Man sana amran. Abu Dawood mentioned Man sana amran, the one who have somewhat made an matter, made an affair. So you have slight change in wordings, but the wording generally they are the same. Mentioned Man fa'ala amran laysa li amruna fahuwa rad. So you have a slight difference in the wording, but the meaning is still the same in one. So that's concerning that particular this hadith. As I mentioned, the hadith in the Bukhari and Muslim. The second point regarding concerning this particular hadith, that regarding the narrator. So a brief tarjuma, a brief mention of the narrator of the hadith. So the narrator of the hadith, as we mentioned, that the system of An-Namwai rahimahullah, that when you mention a narrator, that you find in different version, like this shar of Al-Jami' al-Ulum al-Hikam, that An-Namwai rahimahullah is pattern, that when you mention the narrator, you will mention their full name and their kunya. In some narration, there is no mention of Mu'mineen, Abdullah, that's not mentioned. But in some mention, and Aisha. But a general pattern, so it mentioned regarding concern that as for the narrator of the hadith, it Mu'mineen, which is the title of the believers, believing of a title is given to the Prophet Islam wives. So it's a title given to the Prophet Islam wives as a form of respect and honoring them. So the wife that he married and actually he had intimacy with them, then they're given that title. So the wife that he married, that he had married and did that intimacy, they're not given that title because it wasn't, they say, consummated. Or one that he intended to marry but didn't go through or fell through, then they're not given that title. So only wives, the Prophet Islam wives, that are given the title of Mu'mineen are those that he married and he consummated the marriage. They refer to as al-Mu'mineen. So that's concerning. So that's what I said, that's a title of honor for the Prophet Islam wives, where they're given that particular title as a form of respect and honoring them. But with this title, as being said, they are Mu'mineen, it doesn't mean that they become mahram for us. Those rules still applies. And also being concerned with the Prophet Islam wives, that no one is allowed to marry them after the Prophet Islam. So with certain things, they have certain regarding concern of Prophet Islam wives, there are certain rules regarding what is allowed regarding them with others. So they are still, even though they refer to as being our mothers, I refer to them as our mothers, but it doesn't mean that we can go and marry them, because they're not allowed to marry anyone after the Prophet Islam. Also, second, doesn't mean that we can go and sit with them, type of thing. That's a big concern, but they're still for us strangers. They're still strangers, even though they're said to be our mothers as a form of respect. But it doesn't mean that the rules of being mother applies to them. So that's concerning those matters. As mentioned, أزواجه أمهاتهم. As mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab, وأزواجه أمهاتهم. Concerning and is the Prophet Islam wives, they are your mothers. This is a title that have been given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they are referred, that we look to them as being our mothers. So regarding concerning those matters, that's concerning one, Aisha having that title, and all the other wives of the Prophet Islam carrying that particular title. As for Aisha, her kunya is Abdullah. Her title is Abdullah. Aisha, her name, Aisha bint Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Aisha bint Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So Aisha, that her father, which is well known, was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was Abdullah ibn Abi Quhafa. So her father actual name is Abdullah, but he is known as Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, but the actual name is Abdullah ibn Abi Quhafa. And his father, Abi Quhafa, his name is Uthman. So that's concerning that, her father. As for her mother, that her mother is Roman. Her mother is Roman bint Amir ibn Uwaymir bin Abd Shams Rata'ala anha. But that's concerning her mother is Roman. That's concerning the mother of Aisha Rata'ala, and who is the Roman, will be the wife of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So that her kunya, that is Abdullah, that not because that she had a child. So normally kunya is given for people take a kunya when they have a child. You take so they call or Ab based upon your child. But in this case, Aisha did not have a child. So they refer that she's called is based upon her nephew, her sister's son. So you might find that a person may take on a kunya, not that they have a child, but because instead it becomes a traditional practice amongst the Arab then, that to take on a kunya. So a person can use a kunya without having a child. But when a person has a child, then normally amongst the Arab is given a kunya of the firstborn child. So the firstborn child, then you take the kunya of that child. So that will be your eldest child. And sometimes a person can have more than one kunya. At times a person may have more than one kunya. For example, the firstborn child was a girl. So you take on that name. And then the person might have his other child is maybe he might have another as eldest boy. Also he might take on the name of the kunya of his eldest son. So taking on more than one kunya is something which is allowed and can be done at times. Overall, concerning Aisha radhiyallahu anha, that she was born in Mecca and then migrated to Medina, and she got married to the Prophet ﷺ at the age of 6, 7, but at the age of 6, in the sense of a marriage contract was made between her and the Prophet ﷺ, but they didn't per se live as husband and wife until later. So they got married, but everything was delayed until later, years after, when she moved to Medina. Then they start to live as husband and wife. So that's concerning that particular case, and so that's concerning Aisha radhiyallahu anha. Then as for our fada'il, as what can be said about Aisha is many, regarding concerning many things, positive and good things that can be said about Aisha radhiyallahu anha. And unfortunately, regarding concern, you find some of the people of Al-Ahwa wal Bid'ah that they try to attack her honor. So of those among the Sahaba, the people kind of somewhat they try to attack their honors. You find particular companions. You have some people attack Aisha. Amongst those people comes Al-Rafida wa Shia, alayhi ma yastahaq min Allah. So they try to attack her honor and accuse her of strange things that is not befitting for us to mention. So you have those people who try to attack her honor from those people of Ahwa. So you find some individuals who are attacked. And you find that different people with different purpose. So Aisha being one, of being of Ahl Bayt, of being concerned of Prophet Islam, Aisha has been attacked. And you find others who attack other people for other reasons. So she amongst those of the Sahaba who have been attacked unjustly and unfairly. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that intervened regarding her case, regarding clarifying her situation in the Quran. So it live with us. So the main thing regarding of those who try to attack her honor, and I will know concern the Mawqif of Ahl Sunnah, that anyone who attack concerning any of the Sahaba, then we have nothing to do with those people. We have nothing to do with people who are that way inclined and have those views, negative views against any of the Sahaba, and even more so the ones who are known and are more famous amongst the Sahaba. Also we mentioned that Aisha radhiyallahu anha, that she amongst the wives of the Prophet Islam, that of his wife, that he got married to her when she was still a bikr, when she was still a virgin. So most of his wives were women who were already married. So it shows regarding concern that the encouragement regarding marrying of bikr, women who are virgin, but by way of the Prophet Islam, that is most of his wife, with the exception of Aisha, that when he married them, they were already married, or married previously, and some had children. So it shows that circumstance where a person might go that route, but it is not something where it is a must, where you must marry only bikr, a virgin. The Prophet Islam married women who were previously married. Then a discussion between the ulama regarding concerning that of the Prophet Islam wives, regarding which is more beloved to him, Aisha or Khadija, or which is of ayah standing and ranking in a matter. So you have those who hold that Al-Khadija in the early days, as she was his wife up until the early days, the early years in Islam. So she was his support and backbone regarding assisting the Prophet Islam. So Khadija have a standing being of his wife in those early days when he faced the fitna in Mecca. Then when he kind of somewhat the latter years that he married, then Khadija died, and then he remarried. Then of those that he married was Aisha. So she came after, and she became his beloved. So that's concerning. So there's no, we have to go, one is better than the other, but both kind of somewhat served their own virtues, due to that one was before and then the other came after. Also with Aisha radhiyallahu anha, that have been mentioned regarding concerning that Aisha, that considered to be one of the ulama among the Sahaba. So regarding concerning being a female but considered alima, but she was said to be one of the alima, a person of ilm, a reference point for fatwa and teaching amongst the Sahaba. So it shows regarding concern that from the early days of Islam, that some of the women, that they were the ones who were said to be of people of ilm. So Islam doesn't per se restrict women learning of the deen and learning of knowledge that will be of benefit for them and for Islam and for the Muslim. With its guidelines. So regarding concern that it shows concern that Aisha was among concern of the ulama, among the Sahaba. So it shows that a woman also can excel regarding Islamic knowledge. Contrary to what people might try to paint a negative picture. Also regarding Aisha anha, regarding concern of those concerning that of those concerned amongst the majority of the companions, the group of those companions who have narrated many hadiths. So she stands in that group who have narrated many hadith, over 1,000 hadith. So they're called considered mukthirin or mukthirun, of those who are the ones who have narrated most of the hadith. She stands amongst those who are the ones who have narrated many hadith, over 1,000 plus. So it shows that she was involved, actively involved regarding narrating hadith and spreading the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, especially regarding matters that were internal within the household, that only regarding concern know the Prophet ﷺ regarding how he functioned inside his house. So she of those who pass on such valuable information. So regarding concern Aisha anha, that also of the thing that of that that Isa when he died in her house, in her arms, as they say today. He was in her lap. Also, he was buried the place that she in her house. So he died there and was buried there, and she was present, as I said, in his last moments. So it shows concern that of great value with the Prophet ﷺ and with Islam and within Islam. So as for her death, anha, that she died concerning the month of Ramadan. So she died in the month of Ramadan, and that was a year that khilaf between the ulama regarding exactly what year she died. Of those who mentioned 58, and that she died 58 al-Hijri. Those who mentioned 57, that she died 57, and those who mentioned 66, that she died 66 years after the Hijrah. So concerning that, that she lived for 66 years. So that the year that she died, 58, and those who mentioned 57, and she lived for 66 years. Rata'ala anha. So that's concerning in brief regarding Aisha, and that they mentioned, to add a few more points, that the one who prayed over her, and the one who led her Salatul Janazah, it was man? Abu Hurairah. So the one who led her Salatul Janazah was Abu Hurairah Ta'ala anhu, and also she was buried in Al-Baqiyah. So in Medina, that many of the companions that called the burial ground for most in Medina is Baqiyah, the main one. So she's buried right there in Al-Baqiyah. So that's concerning in brief regarding matters pertaining to Aisha Ratala anha. As for the next matter regarding this hadith, so that's concerning that at-takhrij, and regarding concerning hadith is then we mentioned regarding the Sahabi, narrator, Aisha, then also regarding the status of this hadith amongst the ulama. All the ulama, they look at this hadith and its status regarding the hadith, man amila amalan laysa li amruna fahuwa rad. So as for this hadith, even before we go to the hadith, so as for the status of this hadith, that is mentioned by Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, so mentioned by Ahmad ibn Hanbal, or Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Usul Islam. So it is mentioned that he state Usul Islam ala thalathat ahadith, that usul, the foundation of Islam, revolves around 3 hadith. He mentioned al-amal bin niyat, as we mentioned before. The second hadith in that group of 3 that he mentioned, man ahdatha fi amrina, this particular hadith. And the third hadith, inna al-halal bayin, hadith to be covered. So he mentioned that the usul of Islam revolves around those 3 hadith. Al-amal bin niyat, regarding intention. Man ahdatha, regarding not innovating and refuting innovation and regarding Islam. So not for anyone to bring about new things about Islam. So to preserve Islam, this hadith is to preserve Islam and to keep it intact. And the third regarding halal, regarding that Islam is about the lines, the boundaries of Islam. It's about halal and haram. So Islam revolves, if you want to summarize Islam, it revolves around those three hadith. Our intention about regarding preserving Islam by not adding or subtracting, and also third regarding knowing the boundaries regarding what is halal and what is haram. That's concerning Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Then also An-Namwai rahimahullah, Al-Hafidh An-Namwai rahimahullah, he mentioned هذا حديث مما ينبغي حفظه, that this hadith is something which is befitting to be memorized. So this hadith, the hadith that we mentioned in particular, is befitting that this hadith to be memorized, to be preserved. Then I mentioned وَإِسْتِعْمَالُهُ فِي إِبْتَالِ الْمُنْكَرَاتِ, and this hadith also to be used in refuting things of evil. وَإِشَاءَةِ الْإِسْتِدْلَالِ بِهِ, and also spread using this as a source of reference or as a proof. So that's considered. So An-Namwai rahimahullah showing the importance of this hadith. This hadith is it is to be used to refute regarding things of evil that people try to incorporate into Islam. So the hadith becomes that shield. And also some, because the importance of this hadith, that it should be spread amongst the people. To know that we are not supposed to add matters pertaining to Islam. Third of the aqwal of the ulama regarding this hadith, Ibn al-Rajab rahimahullah. So Hafiz al-Imam Ibn al-Rajab al-Hanbali rahimahullah, that he mentioned هذا hadith أصل عظيم من أصول الإسلام, that he mentioned this hadith is a asl, from a foundation, a great foundation from the usul of Islam. وهو الميزان كالميزان, in sense وهو كالميزان الأعمال في الظاهر, that ظاهرها, that is a scale to measure action that are apparent, open action, apparent action. كما أن الحديث, just as hadith إنما الأعمال ميزان للأعمال في باطن, just as the hadith of actions are by intention, that hadith is used as a scale regarding what is internal. So things that are external, to measure things, we use this hadith to see whether action is acceptable or rejected. To see, so this hadith, it becomes that scale to measure apparent action. Then you have Ash-Shatib rahimahullah and others who have mentioned that Ibn Hajar also mentioned that this hadith, هذا حديث معدود من أصول الإسلام, that is hadith that is within the usul of Islam, وقاعدة من قواعد الإسلام, and this hadith also serves as a foundation, so a principle amongst the principles of Islam. So this hadith, those are some of the aqwal of the ulama showing the importance of this hadith. Next of those things regarding this particular hadith is regarding concerning the mawdu of this hadith. What's the topic of this hadith? So the topic of this hadith, as someone said, is regarding inkar al-munkar wal-bidah wa tahdhir min al-bidah. So this hadith, so this particular hadith, regarding concerning this particular hadith, fifth hadith is regarding showing or to draw to attention regarding tahdhir wa inkar al-bidah, that regarding rejecting and warning against al-bidah fi deen, regarding matter pertaining to this deen. So this hadith, the mawdu, the topic of this hadith is warning against and rejection of bid'ah regarding Islam, in this religion of Islam. So that's concerning this particular, this hadith is to discuss this particular topic. So regarding concerning the hadith, regarding Shar Ijmali, regarding concerning a brief explanation of the hadith, as we had mentioned, that hadith concerning Man Ahdatha fi amrina hada ma laysa minhu farad, that I mentioned concerning the first narration of the hadith, Man Ahdatha. So Ahdatha, that the one who have, the word Hadatha means something which is, Hadath can mean either concerning, Hadath concerning did something which is Jadid, or something did al-Qadim. So it's something which is someone who have invented something which is new. Something which is new, regarding concerning this affairs concerning amrina, regarding concerning amrina, concerning that mean concerning with something that has been legislated in this religion, or is a part of this religion, or within what within this religion, then that's this affair which is al-Islam. Ma laysa minhu fahuwa, that is something which is rejected. So anything that is not originally a part of Islam and have been innovated, been added later on, then it is rejected. And I mentioned man ahdatha, regarding concerning that, the one who adds or innovate. So this hadith kind of somewhat is more regarding those people who come up with a new idea regarding Islam, the person who come up with a new practice, the person who come up with a new idea about Islam. It is something which is new, not already established, then it is rejected, whoever that person may be. So this is concerning that whoever may come up with an idea or practice and attribute it to Islam that is not that was not already a part of Islam, it is rejected. Then a second narration that he mentioned, which is that narration is agreed upon Bukhari and Muslim regarding the person who add to the religion of Islam. Then as for the second meaning concerning man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad, the second narration of Imam Muslim that is refuting regarding that as for a person now acting upon something that have been added to Islam, something have been innovate regarding Islam, we are not allowed to participate in this. So the second narration regarding one should not participate, carry out something that someone have added to Islam or have innovate regarding Islam that have nothing to do with Islam. As for us, we cannot participate in that. We cannot be a part of this. We cannot support this. And support those who carry out this act. So one is not allowed to carry out an act or do of something of Islam that is not a part of Islam. So that's concerning, so the first regarding the person who initiate, and the other one regarding those who follow and support and carry out these things. Then both are rejected. So that's concerning that matter. The hadith here kind of somewhat, the next point of this hadith is, so this hadith is trying to kind of somewhat to bring to our attention or to clarify regarding concerning that that also that Islam is already been established and explained, and there's no need for anyone to come up with something which is new regarding the religion, or try to add to something to the religion, or try to remove something from the religion, because it's already been established. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. So today Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned we have completed the religion. So there's no need for anything to be added, because everything has been done. It's just for us to understand and to apply it. Understand the rules of Islam correctly and apply those things appropriately. That's all that's required from us. Not for us to come with something new or to innovate and show that we can add and we can do this, that we have new ideas. Islam is not about that, because the practice of Islam, the religion of Islam, has already been said. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Has already been explained by the Prophet ﷺ. So that's concerning those particular matter that relates to that. The next of the discussion, that part of the discussion is regarding what is defined as bid'ah. So they mentioned man ahdatha. So the word ahdatha is the word that is taking the word ahdatha, in this case concerning that did the sunnah, did the Islam. So ahdatha slash is al-bid'ah. So the word, both those words can be used meaning concerning al-bid'ah. So the word concerning ahdatha meaning concerning ibtada, the one who have innovate. Nam, clear? With me? So regarding concerning what is bid'ah, some of the person might use the word ahdatha meaning bid'ah, and the word bid'ah is a more renowned, more common word that is used. Nam. So what is bid'ah? How do we find bid'ah? I would say that these definitions are important, that for us to understand, to have the correct understanding of certain things, we need to have the correct, to apply something correctly, we have to understand it correctly. To apply something correctly, we have to make sure we understand those things correctly. And of those things regarding al-bid'ah, what is deemed to be bid'ah in Islam? How do the ulama define bid'ah? So when you have a discussion regarding what is bid'ah, and a person says this is bid'ah, sometimes you have to ask, what do you understand to be bid'ah? And that may be the crux of the matter. That personal understanding of bid'ah may be contrary to what you understand bid'ah to be. So you're unable to agree upon anything because his understanding of bid'ah is contrary to what you understand bid'ah to be. So it's being clear as to what is what. So the matter regarding al-bid'ah and giving concern definition concerning certain things, especially concerning matters that have already been discussed by the ulama. Get up either one, gather what has been mentioned regarding all the aqwal of the ulama regarding what is bid'ah, or get some of the main ones from reputable ulama regarding how they defined al-bid'ah. So you find many definitions that have been put forward regarding what is bid'ah. Many definitions have been put forward regarding what is bid'ah. So bid'ah linguistically concerned that, ibtida' shay. It's concerned that it's a person to start something new. Nam, or said la'an mithal as-sabiq. And there's no precedent for it. There's no precedent for that thing from before. There's no example of it that is mentioned before. So something which is completely new. Nam, that is bid'ah linguistically. So something which is new, there's no precedent of it before, or any examples of it that can be found before. As for ibtida' fi sharia, then you have various definitions regarding what the ulama have mentioned regarding al-bid'ah. So you have several of those more common ones that Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, of those when he explained concerning, that he mentioned concerning al-bid'ah, ma ahdatha. So Ibn Rajab rahimahullah al-Hanbali, he mentioned al-bid'ah, ma ahdatha mimma la aslahu fi sharia. Yudillu alayh. That he mentioned that ma ahdatha, something has been newly invented where there is no precedent of it before in the Sharia, and there's no dalil to prove it. That is how he defined bid'ah. So bid'ah for him, those things that have been newly invented, it has no asl, it has no origins, it has no basis in the Sharia from before, and also there's no dalil to prove it. That is bid'ah. Of the definition that is given as bid'ah. One of the ulama, that his name is Allama al-Shatibi, rahimahullah, he died 790 al-Hijri. 790 Hijri. He has a book called Al-Ittisam. That book is a book that goes into matters relating to bid'ah. So if you want to study a book on the principles of bid'ah, then that will be of those books to be studied. It's in 2 volumes. You have different prints, but the more reputable, check in there in 2 volumes. But that's of those books, and some 3. But the main thing that book, Al-Ittisam, some of the brothers I mentioned before, I've seen they mentioned that Ittisam is a book in Aqidah. But Ittisam is not a book per se, it's a book concerned that is more that the author tried to discuss regarding the principles, guidelines to be followed, and how to identify bid'ah. So the book that relates to the principle relating to al-bid'ah. So it's an important book to be studied, of those books to be studied regarding how to identify, to have some principles relating to al-bid'ah. Al-Ittisam by al-Shatibi. And al-Shatibi rahimahullah, in his book, like in Usul al-Fiqh, his books that they stand out. His book, they stand out. So his Ibrahim ibn Musa al-Shatibi, he has a book called Al-Muwafaqat. That's for a person who wants to be a mufti. If you don't give fatwa, then read Muwafaqat. And also when you're going to discuss about bid'ah, then read Al-Ittisam. Then read Kitab Al-Ittisam. So that's concerning Al-Shatib rahimahullah. Back to what Al-Shatib rahimahullah, he mentioned that he can give two definitions of bid'ah, depending on how people, the perception of people look at the topic. So he mentioned regarding the definition that he mentioned concerning al-bid'ah, tariqatu fi din muhtara. So it is a path in the deen which is newly invented. Tadahi ash-sharia, that seems to blend with the sharia. يقصد بالسلوك عليها ما يقصد بطريقة الشريعة. That he mentioned, so he mentioned the main concern that is a path in the sharia that is newly invented, newly invented, that seems to resemble the sharia, where the person follow this trend, seeking to follow the path of the sharia. It's a bit meaning that the person al-bidah, where there's something which is new and newly invented, but it seems to resemble the sharia. It seems to resemble the sharia, but the person is doing so thinking is with the intent of trying to follow the sharia. Clear? So the person doing something that he believes to be a part of the sharia, that seems to resemble what the sharia brings. For example, the person with a new salah, but salat is already established, so we know about salah. But this salat al-raghaib, first whatever time of a particular month, you have to pray this salah. But salat is something which is already established, but it seems to resemble something that you can recognize. But in reality, it's not a part of the sharia. But the person believes it to be so, because it resembles parts of the sharia, and the person also is intention of doing of this, that he thinks that he's following the sharia. And as we mentioned also that the problem with al-bidah. So the person doing it thinking that is actually doing something within the sharia, within the bounds of the sharia. That's the problem with al-bidah. Then he has said no, but so concerns that of the definition that he gives regarding al-bidah. Then he gives another definition mentioned, which is similar. طريقة في الدين مخترع تضاهي الشريعة يقصد بالسلوك عليها مبالغة في تعبد لله. So he mentioned a second definition, which is somewhat similar, as I mentioned, a slight difference. That is a path that has been innovated regarding the religion that seems to resemble the sharia. The person intending to follow this, that to مبالغة في تعبد, that he wants to maximize in worshipping of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person wants to maximize worshipping of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person who do not, but that's a bidah. So the person will say, but so because it is something which is newly invented regarding the sharia, that is attached to the sharia, that resembles the sharia, and the person doing so, thinking he is doing so as a form of trying to give his full effort in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in reality, that act, it has no place in the sharia. But the perception is that it is, because it resembles things of the sharia. And he gave those two definitions based upon of the ulama, as we'll discuss concerning, who make a distinction regarding bid'ah. Is it restricted only to ibadat? Or can bid'ah can also expand to things, can fall, or can also occurs in matter regarding adat, mu'amalat, general affairs. Of the ulama mentioned that general affairs, bid'ah doesn't fall into it. Only bid'ah is restricted to things of ibadat. But as for general matters, no. So he gave those two definitions based upon how some of the ulama perceive and define bid'ah. Clear? So I mentioned that it all depends with concern definition. The person has to try to be as precise as possible, and because it can have restrictions. So that's concerning how he defined al-bidah. So make it more simple regarding concern that of the definition that of the ulama of contemporary times, you have as-Suyuti, I've given definition. You have others, I've given definition of al-bidah. In summary, that we find concerning that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, that he mentioned that al-bidah, that Ibn Taymiyyah in his book Ishar, Lumat al-I'tiqad, that he mentioned al-bidah here, ما أحدث في الدين على خلاف ما كان عليه نبي الإسلام وأصحابه من عقيدة أو عمل. So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he defined bid'ah as ما أحدث, هي ما أحدث, something that been newly invented في الدين, in the matter of the religion, على خلاف, in opposition, in opposite or in opposition, ما كان عليه نبي الإسلام, the Prophet Islam was upon, وأصحابه, and his companions, من عقيدة, in matters in عقيدة, or amal, or matters regarding actions. Clear? So that's concerning how Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah defined al-bidah. Also you find the next definition that is also clear, especially concerning for us, that one of the ulama, or one of the scholars, one of the Shaykh called Abdullah ibn Abdul Aziz al-Jibreen rahimahullah, he died several years ago, but a person not well known, but his books are very good. Alim who didn't like attention. So some people, they don't like this attention. But as for his knowledge, mashallah. And died with of cancer. That they mentioned that his father said, no, when they asked his father, he said, my son there, I'm pleased with him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm pleased with my son. How many fathers can say that to their son? You understand? But the Shaykh rahimahullah, that he has books in Aqidah, and also he has book in some few topics, also a book in fiqh. But we said his works are very beneficial. His works are very beneficial. Ala kulli hal, he mentioned regarding al-bidah, he mentioned al-bidah, that he mentioned that bidah, to know concerning summary, khilaf al-sunnah. So in summary, bidah, khilaf al-sunnah. So when a person says something of bidah, then you know the person what he's saying, immediately that act is contrary to the sunnah. That's the common language of the common use of the word bidah. When a person says something of bidah, that the person means that what you're doing is in opposition to the sunnah. Isn't it? So that's the meaning, the general meaning. Then he mentioned concerning al-bidah, kullu i'tiqad, in every belief, أو قول, أو statement, أو فعل, أو action, أو ترك, أو leaving away something, ta'abbud bihi lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a person doing this as a form of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, laysa fi shar ma yudul ala mashru'iyati, and there's nothing in the Sharia that validate this act. There's nothing in the Sharia that can be used as an evidence or can validate that act. So that is al-bidah. Clear? So meaning, kulla i'tiqad, bidah, every belief, or qawl, or statement, or fail, or action that is done, or tark, or leaving away something, out of form of a worship, the person doing it is a form of is getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though that thing that is being done, those things, it has no precedent in the Sharia. It has no proof, it has no precedent in the Sharia. No evidence to prove it. Then that is what is bidah. So you're doing something as a form of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there's no evidence for what you're doing. This is, and the person doing it as a form of ta'abbud. He's doing a form of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You expect to be rewarded for it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You expect to be praised as doing something of the sunnah, but in reality, that's not the case. Because there's no evidence from the Sharia to prove this, what you're doing. So that's concerning al-bidah. In amongst with those definitions. So with the last two definitions of bidah, that bidah can fall into 4 areas. Based upon the definition of Sheikh Abdullah Jibreen. And there's many Jibreen. So this is maybe not the one that is the more popular one. There's not the more popular Jibreen. For those who, since we have listeners.
So you're basically saying there is an evidence for every action of worship in Sharia.
We'll come to that. So as a general thing concern, I will discuss concerning bidah, and we might go might go to the next lesson in this matter concerning bidah. That would bidah that you find before. So regarding that's just the answer said. Regarding we may discuss regarding concerning, we have in the Sharia, in Islamic law, that things fall into, which is the Sharia regarding actions that are carried out or things not to be done. So in the Sharia, that either certain things that we are required to fulfill and certain things that we are required to avoid. So in things of concern that is concerned in Sharia, we have things, they put things into two categories. Things that are said to be ibadat. So things that are classed as ibadat were those things that they're defined by the Sharia and set only by the Sharia. So salat is only set by the Sharia. And all other type of salat, all the salat we do are set only by the Sharia. Anyone to come with a new salat called salat al-ghafilun. Salat al-ghafilun. What salat is ghafilun? I cannot come here. So you cannot make up no new salah. Because all the salat that we're supposed to do have been identified and explained. So what we have to work with it. What we don't have, we cannot introduce. Because they have said ibadat, which would include salah, siyam, hajj, umrah, zakat. Some add jihad to some, you understand? But they said those four in more so of ibadat, they are set, I would say we use the word set in stone. Only the Prophet Islam can legislate regarding alim fulan could be alim to whatever mountain you want to put him on top of. He cannot legislate something new. He does not have that right. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq does not have that right. Umar doesn't have that right. They only explain the Sharia, but they cannot legislate anything new. So regarding concerning ibadah, they are set. We carry out things. I said, the asl of ibadat al-man. You do not do something until you have approved to do it. So you're traveling and you want to make what? Qasr, you want to shorten and you want to al-jam. You do it because there's a precedent. We have a dalil. So you have a permission. So the original, you don't do it until you have a go ahead. So you cannot just, you understand? So the asl of ibadat, you don't do something until you have the green light. In mu'amalat, so the other aspect of things now, of the Sharia regarding thing which is mu'amalat, general affairs. Some of those general affairs regarding business transaction, regarding marriage, some of those things that Sharia have given certain guidelines and put certain guidelines regarding how to carry out those things. So for example, business transaction, the general rule is that everything is halal until there's something to say otherwise. So the Sharia says certain type of business transaction is haram. So if it is, whatever is haram, we cannot do. Whatever is not mentioned in the list of haram is allowed. So you cannot say that business thing is, you can't do it. I'm going to ask, why your dalil? You don't have to ask the dalil. Your thing is, you have to tell me why I cannot do it. Not why I can do it. Because the asl is, the original ruling is that I'm allowed until you bring me something to say otherwise. Clear? So that's concerning how to, so that's a general scale to look at, to use as a general scale. Now, does that answer? No. Where we're at again. So regarding concerning back to looking at bid'ah regarding concerning those, the last two definition, that can help more, give us more points. So the point is that bid'ah can occur regarding i'tiqad. So matters regarding bid'ah can occur regarding things of belief, things of creed. So something I said to know that that's the creed of Ahli bid'ah. You attach certain things to a certain group because that creed now, a certain type of belief has been attached to certain people who are gone against the sunnah. They're not, in the sense of, they're not falling in line with the sunnah on that matter. So you have that matter in matters of i'tiqad. Then you have also matter that bid'ah can occur in regarding concerning things of statements, things that are being said. Also bid'ah can be done regarding actions, which is in most cases. You understand? And also you find many cases, and then also concerning taruk regarding a bid'ah that the person said, I'm not eating meat. And I'm going to work this for me is an act of ibadah, not because I'm ill, not because of, but I'm doing a form of ta'abbud. Give him the best, what do you call it? Natural grown animals. No, I'm not eating it. Because I I'm worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by not eating meat at all. Or the person said, I'm worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by not getting married. That the situation didn't arise, but he's saying, I will not get married. I'm going to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to just do all my qiyam and be good. I don't want the responsibility of a wife, so I'm going to live my life not getting married, and I'm going to do this in a form of ibadah. Then that becomes a bidah. Because you put it on yourself, something which there's no need. Clear? That's the person leaving something which is mubah as a form of worship. Getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's concerning those matters regarding. So I said those things you find the Sharia at times may speak contrary to those things, and a person now going against those matters. So that's concerning bid'ah, that it will fall into those different matters. Next of the matter regarding bid'ah is regarding al-hukum. What's the hukum regarding al-bid'ah? So hukum al-bid'ah haram. Hukum al-bid'ah haram. So in all cases, what do you need that bid'ah to be? Al-bid'ah kabira or bid'ah as-saghira, bid'ah fil amal or fi i'tiqad or fi whatever way, whatever say. All bid'ah is haram. Kullu bid'ah dalal. So every bid'ah also is a misguidance. So it's also haram and a path to misguidance. So it's not for a person to innovate, try to be clever, try to be that he has new ideas. He's trying to be progressive in trying to add things to Islam. That's unacceptable, and that's haram. And also it's haram also and to follow an act of bid'ah. So the second, that's also is haram to take on and apply and to spread an act of bid'ah. So for a person to act upon it or even try to spread it amongst other people and to convey to other people, that's also haram. Unless they are cautioned against that bid'ah. But to call to it is haram. So that's concerning the hukum regarding al-bid'ah. So bid'ah, haram across the board for the person to initiate, to be the one who's the inventor, to be the one who's the follower. It's all haram. What time is it? 7:40. Okay, we have to stop here now, inshallah. 7:40. We'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll continue regarding, I would say with the bid'ah concerned, we're going to concern asbabul bid'ah and the different type of bid'ah concerned there. So discuss other matters relating to al-bid'ah in the next lesson. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop here and continue. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهادي إلى سبيل والآخر دعوانا الحمد لله. Any quick clarification on what was mentioned?
No, I ain't got no questions on mine.
Hey, خلاص then, there's no need to force the situation. وبالله توفيق.